Hey guys, it's Drew again, and today's story time. Today's story is going to talk about how a diamond ring, how the stomach bug, and how one of my most memorable moments of my life regarding baseball are all connected with the Red Sox finally breaking their curse. Let's go check it out. So the story has to do with my wife, who is absolutely my best friend in my life. But there's a connection that I have, not necessarily within the hobby, but within baseball, and this story is definitely worth telling. So the story, as you can figure out, goes back in 2004 when the Red Sox broke the curse, because I've already mentioned that. Just for a little bit of context, my wife at the time lived in Orlando, Florida, and I live up in Northeast Georgia. And we were dating. We had been dating for a few years, and we were getting to the point to where we knew we were going to get married, but I hadn't proposed yet. Well, I had gone on a missions trip, which I had mentioned in a previous video, and we were getting ready to do like a presentation for our church and kind of show pictures and talk about testimony and different things and that we had experienced. And so my wife was going to come up to watch this presentation and be there. Little did she know that that was the same weekend that I was planning on proposing. So before she had come up, she had been on a cruise with a group of people from her church, and she got off the cruise, went back home, and she was ready to head up, but she wasn't feeling really well, and she thought about postponing the trip. Well, her mom, who was the only person at that point that knew that I was about to propose, encouraged her, no, you got to go, support her, you got to go. So when she got here, I did propose. Of course, she said yes, and all the celebration and excitement and everything else. That was on a Saturday. In fact, that was October 16th. I remember very distinctly because it happens to be my dad's birthday. And on the next day, on Sunday the 17th, our church did our presentation, and she was there for it. And it was just a great time. My sister and her husband had come down for it, and my sister and wife were best friends growing up, actually, but that's a whole other story. Anyway, so we enjoyed the time and everything, and come Monday, she was set to leave to drive back down to Orlando. And she gets in the car and she starts to head back down. Well, with all the excitement and everything else, she didn't realize that she was getting sick. In fact, pretty severely sick, as far as like a stomach flu or something going on, and she got maybe an hour away, headed south towards Florida, and she had to pull over, and she was feeling terrible, and she decided, I'm going to go back, and I'm just going to kind of wait till this passes at Drew's house. So she comes back up. Well, I had no plans for her to be here after that, and I was back into work and regular routine and everything. So she's there, and she was sick, and I felt terrible for her. Well, this also happened to be in the same time when the Red Sox and the Yankees were facing again in the postseason to see who's going to go to the World Series. And this is the year after the whole Aaron Boone home run thing. And it's just so sick of the freaking Yankees always getting lucky in the right time, the right thing, and thinking it was talent, but that's a whole other topic too. So anyway, so the Yankees were up 3-0, and she knew I was a huge baseball fan, and she knew baseball and liked baseball, but she didn't really follow it too much at that point. But she's now a captive audience. She's sick and she's on the couch. And so that night, I'm trying to take care of her as best I can. Well, hopefully she'll feel better. And it was not looking so good for the Red Sox. So the Red Sox end up winning Game 4. So they're down 3-1. And you know the story. They end up winning Game 5, Game 6, and eventually Game 7. But in that span of time, my wife actually spent the whole time on my couch. And every night we would watch the game. And she's learning more about these new players and her, or at least my feelings towards the Yankees and, just whatever. Well, by the end of this week, when the Red Sox won, two things had happened. First, she was feeling much better and she was able to go home. And second, she became a huge Red Sox fan, especially a huge David Ortiz fan. So my wife, back in Florida, of course, and fiance at the time, but anyway, she ends up watching the World Series, and I'm watching it up here, and the Red Sox sweep, and they win the World Series. The curse is broken, jubilation and everything. Well, this instantly solidified her being a Red Sox fan, and it was great. It was just a good time, and it was so much fun. And it just, the fact that she was there and she saw the bloody sock and she heard the backstories, and I'm telling her all this other stuff. It was a great time. It was amazing. So fast forward, we are set to be engaged. I'm sorry, set to be married by being engaged. And one of those things, besides planning the wedding, is starting to plan our honeymoon. And what we had decided, which had nothing to do with the Red Sox, but we decided that we were going to fly from Florida, where we got married, up to New England, and we were going to do like a little road trip and just hit little places around, including Cape Cod, Boston, New York, and finally Cooperstown. So the fact that we ended up in Cooperstown on our honeymoon, you know what kind of woman she is. So anyway, so we do this, and she says along the way something like, she's looking at different things. She is a uber planner. I mean, she is great at planning and thinking ahead. And we're looking at dates and this for hotels and Airbnb, well, it wasn't Airbnbs, but bed and breakfast that we were at, and just different places along the way. And she calls me and she says, "Oh, by the way, I went ahead and got tickets for a game in Boston. We're going to go see the Red Sox play." And I'm like, "How did you get tickets to a game?" Because I knew you can't get tickets to Fenway. You just can't. You know what I mean? They were selling out. They had already been sold out every game for a number of years before that, and now they were the World Series champion. She said, "Well, I just went online." And this is the crazy thing. She decides, "Oh, you know what? Let's see if the Red Sox are going to be home when we're in Boston." And she goes online. She goes on the Red Sox website. She sees, oh, they are going to be there and they're going to be at home. So she clicks in, "I want 2 tickets," and she buys the tickets. Little did she know that the Red Sox season sold out in like 15 minutes or 30 minutes. And she just happened to be online in that little span of time when those tickets go on sale, and we ended up having 2 tickets. So part of our honeymoon was we ended up going to Fenway Park and getting to see the Red Sox play. And another kind of fun fact about this whole thing, I found out actually years later, the game that I went to, which was in May of 2005 now, they played the Orioles, and there was 2 records that were broken during that game that nobody knew about. And one of the great things about baseball records is nobody knows them. You can pull in enough little qualifiers for it, and all of a sudden this guy is the second best in history with something that makes almost no sense. Well, the game that we went to broke 2 records, and I thought it was funny. So the first one is, it was the first time in baseball history that 4 future 500 home run hitters all played in the same game. And those were Manny Ramirez, David Ortiz, and on the Orioles, Rafael Palmeiro played, and it was the one season that Sammy Sosa played for the Orioles. In fact, Sammy Sosa hit a home run in that game, and that leads to the second record. And when Sammy Sosa hit that home run, that made it the longest span of games played that a player hit a home run in a specific stadium. And what had happened was, is Sammy Sosa, very young, in 1990, when he played for the White Sox, hit a home run in Fenway Park his rookie year. And then, of course, he ends up going to the National League, and he plays all those years in the National League and never ended up going back to Fenway until 2005. So, yes, 2005 on the Orioles, and he hit a home run. And that span of 15 years in between was the longest span of time that a player hit a home run in the same stadium without hitting another one. So anyway, very traditional, very normal baseball kind of fact, and I just thought it was great that I got to see it. The Red Sox lost. Tim Wakefield, I remember, was on the mound. I like Wakefield. I've got a little bit of a sort of connection to him, but not really, through college and a friend. But anyway, but his knuckleball was not working that day, and the Orioles just went off on him. But that's okay. We had a great time getting to see Fenway Park, getting to experience that whole thing, and just the atmosphere, the World Series champion, just the relief of Boston. And I remember that day that we went to, it was a night game, and the day that we were there, we were touring around on like a trolley tour kind of thing, and we were so excited. And the tour guide's like, "Oh, where are you guys, what else are you going to do?" And my wife said, "Oh, we're going to go to the Red Sox game tonight." How did you even get tickets? And again, it's just so funny, the fact that she just happened to go online, and it was just phenomenal timing. But anyway, that's just a small snippet about how my wife became a huge Red Sox fan and still is a Red Sox fan. She doesn't watch a ton of games, but she does know what's going on. And when Ortiz was voted into the Hall of Fame last year, she was super excited about it. So anyway, there's another story in my baseball history life of, my best friend who was my wife, and how a stomach flu ended up causing her delay to go home, and we ended up forming this bond, a different type of bond within our own relationship over baseball, over the Red Sox, overcoming the curse. So I thought you guys might enjoy that. So I appreciate you coming along, having some patience to listen to me ramble for a little bit. But until next time, I hope you guys be good.